Hi, everyone. My name is Ronnie Hay with UBEO Marketing, and I am joined here by Erick Miller. Erick is our VP of Technology Solutions for UBEO. Erick is an expert in the field of IT and security, in particular around our solutions that we deploy to our customers. He's got over 25 years in the field, and he is the person that I go to when I need to educate myself on one of the topics or solutions that we have. And so Erick and I were talking last week, and I kind of hit pause on the conversation because as we got into it, what he was telling me was very, very interesting, and I thought it would be useful for others to hear. So Erick, let me get back into it. To recap, what exactly happened with the CDK security breach that happened a few weeks ago?
First of all, Ronnie, thanks for having me. But yes, the CDK security breach basically ended up being a ransomware attack. And now, again, what is ransomware? So a ransomware is where a hacker gets into a particular organization's network and encrypts all of the data on that network. And they even attempt to encrypt not only the data on the servers, but also the data that's on the backups. And then a lot of times organizations will have backups of the backups. And so they really try to prevent the customer from restoring back to the original state. And that's really what makes the power of that ransom so hard to avoid, is to be able to get back what you had originally. And that's really what crippled the CDK case. To get into more detail, when that was first ransomed, their CDK that's what they did. They attempted to restore back from their backups. But what happened was they did not eliminate the access of those hackers from being in that network. So when they did that restore, they just re-encrypted the network all over again. And that really put CDK in a bind, which ultimately ended up them paying $25 million to the hackers to basically get the keys to decrypt the data there at the end.
So, Erick, let me ask a follow-up question to that. So, is there anything that, local IT, that are inside, CDK services, auto dealerships, right? Is there anything that the local IT support could have done on their end to prevent any of this? Because it really locked up a lot of operations for, thousands of dealerships across the country. Is there any steps they could have taken to prevent this, or was this just out of their hands?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ronnie. And really go back to the question before that, which is why would a dealership or organization like that even look to companies like CDK or all the other ones out there in the first place? And it really does come down to basically the combining of resources. An individual dealership or any business, for that fact, could never justify on their own the amount of security, the backups, the restoration, all of those things that takes place to prevent the level of sophistication that hackers and stuff have today. And so you really look to those organizations because by combining everyone together, so for example, CDK has 15,000 dealerships. And so they do have the resources and the responsibility to really, lock down their particular networks. And even with that, still hackers were able to get in. Because another way of thinking about that is the bigger organization is, also the bigger that the pot could be, in this case, $25 million, if they were to be able to lock that particular company up. So when a local dealership, or really local, any company, makes an evaluation of what company to partner with, there's many things that you can look at. One is internationally recognized security certifications, or even here nationally, here in the US. So for example, ISO, they have many different certification levels. In this particular case, ISO 27001 is a very standardly recognized security compliance certification that organizations can gain. And basically what that is saying is a third-party organization has evaluated a company on a regular basis to maintain that particular security certification, and that they have put things in place to put a measure of protection on a particular application. Here in the United States, things have even gone further with SOC 2, Type 2 certifications as well. And one thing that many people may not know is they just simply will hear, oh, you're SOC 2 Type 2 compliant. Well, SOC 2 Type 2 actually consists of multiple layers. So there's actually 5 certifications within that standard of SOC 2, one of them being security, but others is compliance, confidentiality, privacy, architecture, things like that, that not all organizations go to that extent to make sure they get all 5 of those particular certifications. They may only get one of them. So what organizations can do is when they are evaluating service providers that they are partnering with, ask those further questions. Well, what level of certification have you gone to? Have you taken the extra step beyond just the minimum to maintain our particular, because especially for those dealers, their business was CDK. That's their accounting system. That's their service system. That's everything. They were locked down completely. They could not conduct business. So really, you need to also evaluate the function that product does for you. What would happen if it goes down, and how fast can it be, restored in that particular case? So there's many different things that you look at when you partner with a particular company, but obviously security is one of the top ones that should be looked at.
And you go through this process personally when you are vetting the types of solutions that we have a really wide product portfolio. And we have a lot of, add-on and bolt-on solutions that come from, they could be on-prem, they could be cloud-based. Can you talk a little bit about the process that you personally and your team goes through when you're considering a new product to bring on for UBEO? Is it similar to that process that you just described, where you go through all that same vetting and everything when you're talking about building out our product library?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if we're going to recommend something and put our name on it as that recommender, then we need to live up to that level of scrutiny in that particular regards. But also when looking at security, security comes at layers. If you just think about your house, you have your front door, then you have the lock to that front door, then you have the security camera. All those things are layers, and they're really, we have to work all together as a team. There's no point of putting the lock on the door if you don't actually lock it when you leave. So one of the things that we do when we work with our particular customers is we say, hey, we got to look at all sides of the parameters and what can you put in place. So for example, we have a hardening process, a network hardening process that we have documented, that when we look at our office equipment and the applications that we put in place, a lot of the default features that are turned on don't need to remain to be turned on after the fact. If you're not using it, then we're able to turn those things off to just, again, eliminate the access, or it's called a threat interface that outside people can look at to try to, get into a particular organization. And so again, when you're evaluating any partner from an IT standpoint, you got to ask those questions and also listen for the silence. If they are not bringing it up, if they're not demonstrating what they have done on your behalf to show security or ask the questions, then that should be a question in your own mind. Is this partner I'm working with really have the best partner I should be partnering with in that particular regard, especially when it comes to security? And the CDK is it's a big example, but they happen every day to individual small businesses, because that CDK was just one application that organization used, but many other applications or features or functions with the customer's network, if they were to go down, would have basically the same impact.
Right. So just so I'm understanding that, if you think about it in terms of layers of size of applications and whatever, CDK, big cloud provider, a Reynolds and Reynolds or something like that on the same level. You rely on those companies and those cloud providers to provide that level of security. And, sometimes there's going to be a failure. It's almost inevitable, but, they try to put all these things in place to prevent it. In this case, it didn't happen. But you potentially have vulnerabilities at every layer of applications that you could put into your environment, whether it's cloud or local or any of that, right? And that's part of our process, is to help vet that stuff out.
Correct. Like one of those 4 particular example is, obviously the communication between a dealership and Reynolds or CDK is encrypted and secure. But what about when you hit file print with all that financial information for your customer sitting in front of you to sign? Is that data going from your computer over to that printer? Is that encrypted? If someone's listening on your network in today's world, network administrators have to assume there's someone on the network listening. And so is that data going from your computer to that printer? Is that encrypted? Can they just bypass all the security that's been put in place and just simply wait for the print job to kick out on the printer, and they could gather everything that was ever on that screen because it was just printed out on that piece of paper? So again, you got to look from cradle to grave of how that data moved from one point to the other, and where someone could actually gather that data.
Awesome. Well, I think this has been a really good conversation. So how can, if somebody's interested in learning more from you as the leader of the pro IT team within UBO, who kind of partners on all of our technology assessments, I mean, how can they reach out to us?
So go to ubo.com, reach to the contact us page, put your contact information, and we'll definitely have an account manager reach out to you, and we can discuss how our hardening process and other solutions can meet and secure your particular environment.
All right. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.